Silksong has finally come out. Yippee! And apparently the first expansion is coming soon as well. Hollow Knight is one of my top games of all time, and I found Silksong to be a very worthy follow-up with only a few hiccups. One thing I like to do as a bit of a thought exercise is to consider how a game teaches its main mechanics to its players, or how it handles its tutorial. And I've gotta say, I'm impressed with how Silksong handles its opening compared with Hollow Knight, and there are definitely more things that Team Cherry has done to rope the player in early and to teach them how to play. Now, a couple of my friends played Hollow Knight, and both of them had the same two comments, that everything is sort of grey, and they didn't know what was happening, like where to go and what your purpose was. And I tend to consider that Hollow Knight takes a bit too long to really get going, so to speak. Maybe like sort of the game opening up more once you get the dash, but before that, I find there to be a lot of meandering about through the crossroads. Silksong certainly addresses these 2 points, so let's take a look and compare how both games pull it off. Now before I go on, there won't be any spoilers here, and I'm only going to cover some basic things related to the game. Juniper Dev did an excellent video covering all of the little details of the opening, including talking about things like particle effects and color theory and all of that. It's an absolutely excellent video, so I highly recommend going to go watch that. I'll link it down in the description. Lessons. So both games use a fairly simple linear path to serve as their respective tutorials and lead towards the first town. Both games teach simple movement, attacking, healing, platforming, and your enemy types. But Silksong is a lot more slick with it. You start the game by immediately healing, which teaches you how many masks it recovers, the time it takes, the animation for it, whereas Hollow Knight teaches you through on-screen text. There are also a couple more enemy types in Silksong's intro as well. There's ground enemies, flying enemies of course, but you also have these rolly guys that need some attention. Plus, Silksong hits you with a boss right off the rip, whereas Hollow Knight takes its time before you get to fight either the False Knight or Gruz Mother. Silksong also teaches benches and how Hornet can kind of mantle up things with really well-framed environments and good lighting. Okay, so those are all of the basics, but let's get back to those 2 main complaints that my friends had about Hollow Knight. Color. So it doesn't take a genius to see how Hollow Knight looks pretty blue and gray here. Don't get it twisted, there are absolutely gorgeous segments and areas in this game, but when you put players into this gray cavern, have them get to a gray town, and then down into another gray area, it kind of leads to a bit of boredom and sets people up to get lost. Now Silksong opens with a very typical first area being filled with lush greenery, and the Moss Grotto is a very pretty opening, also just showing how much Team Cherry have improved their environmental design. Things just look a lot more full here compared to Hollow Knight. Hornet pops out with her red cloak, the green moss and dark rocks make for good visual distinction, and it seriously sets a precedent for how detailed each area in this game is. Purpose and setup. So in Hollow Knight, it opens with a fairly vague cutscene of something happening within this temple, and then your player character comes in and drops down looking towards the light of a nearby town. So, did you catch the story that you're here to break the seals in that temple in order to stop the infection keeping the kingdom in stagnation? Whereas Silksong opens immediately with Hornet being carried by these particular bugs in a cage that's suppressing her, until reaching these colossal gates. Past it, she's somehow freed by this glowing moth, and then she puts an end to all of it, leading to her falling deep below. Once waking up and getting through the Moss Grotto, you meet the Chapel Maid, where Hornet, unlike the Knight, can actually talk to her and explain the situation. She was captured and taken to the kingdom of Farloom, her captors wanting to take her to the top of it called the Citadel. You're given an explicit kill Ganon type of quest here of ascending to the top of Farloom. This immediately gives the player a clear goal to strive for, and anything that happens along the way happens. I find it sets you up for the rest of the game cleanly, and also has a clear purpose. It takes much longer for any sort of hard goal to be set in Hollow Knight, and you have to get to the City of Tears before any sort of map icon gets made. Conclusion. So I guess the point is, Silksong still employs the same sort of things needed to ease players into its world as Hollow Knight, it just handles it a lot smoother in my eyes. The opening is immediately intriguing, more things happen sooner, like a boss fight and even getting the first upgrade relatively shortly when you get through the first town, and sort of lets go of your hand in a bit more of a slick way. So that's all I have to say for now. I wanted to make a real short and sweet video on Silksong, but I expect to make another video on it in time. I found myself really getting into the world and breadth of Silksong in the month after it came out, and it gave me that exact same feeling in Hollow Knight of having so much to do, but not being overwhelmed by the scale and might of the world, and it was really well executed. Great game.